Women's History Month is a time to celebrate the achievement of women across all fields. Though I don't think it should be limited to match alone, but today we are going to be focusing on the world of graphic design. I will be highlighting five influential women who left their mark in the industry and who paved the way for women across the world. So let's get right to the video. First woman on my list is C.P. Penelis. She was born in June 1908 and she died in January 1991. CP was one of the most influential yet unsung art directors of the 20th century. This was how CP was described on her own website. She studied fine art in school, and even though her career started off in print media and commercial work, her early painting showed a love for food, and she privately kept books filled of painting and ingredients. So CP was an OG, she was a pioneer. The way she merged her love for food and art it is absolutely brilliant. Like, she brought her own food related artwork, and not only her own but also that of others, to like big magazines like Charm, 17, Vogue, Glamour, Vanity Fair. She was also the first art director as a magazine to commit to hiring artists to do illustrations. And then it was not a popular thing then to like create editorial illustrations. So, but it was under her that they were able to like celebrate other fine artists, people that had that skills. Also, our involvement at 17 changed the way young women are being represented in the magazine industry. They were usually seen as, husband hunters, jobless, and all of that stuff. But she thought that her readers, that's the female readers, they are like serious, they are smart, and their readership hold value, not just that of the men. So beyond being an art director, she also became a design consultant at Lincoln Center in 1967. She also mentored aspiring designers at Parsons School of Design. She currently has a cookbook that you can order on our website. Her cookbook says, entitled is Leave Me Alone with the Recipe, the Art, the Life, and the Cookbook of C.P. Penelis. It was published in October 2007. It featured a lot of her unpublished painting, recipes, and stories of her life and work. You should get it. The second person is someone I'm really excited about because she's still alive and she's a Black woman. Her name is Cheryl D. Miller. She's 72 years old. Where are the Black designers? Why aren't they in the history book? What happened? Cheryl is a revolutionist through and through. She's currently a professor of diversity, equity, inclusion in communication design at the Art Center College of Design. She's also a distinguished senior lecturer at the University of Texas at Austin. So prior to all this, she was a very prominent designer in the 70s and in the 80s. She owned a design firm, which was a rare thing for a woman to do. Though the design firm was like closed down like a few years later, like a decade later, I think. But it was due to the fact that she wants to focus on family life. So she took break from a career to raise her two children. So that's why. But she was an OG. And she also like designed the original brand identity for BET Awards. BET Awards, Black Entertainment. Let me look that up. Yes, Black Entertainment Television. So she designed the original brand identity for BET. So Cherry is also known for her advocacy and inclusion in the design industry. She has written extensively on it that Black people are being secluded. Like, you can where are the Black designers in the industry? That's back then. And even now, we still have that kind of problem. Like, that's what she was fighting for in the 70s and the 80s. We still have a majority. We still have that problem. Though it is much better than the 80s, but it is still there. And especially like representing Black women in the industry, like Black women in graphic design industry. So she has written extensively on this topic. Her capstone thesis was titled Transcending the Problems of Black Designer to Success in the Marketplace, and it was published in 1985. Then also our first article about this thesis was published 2 years later, and it was titled Black Designers Missing in Action. So you can see she was really, really vocal about the representation of Black people in the industry. Like, it was a very, very male dominated and white industry then. It has gotten better now, but yeah, she's one of those voices, and her works has been archived at Stanford University for their anthropology, their feminist studies, their American history, political studies, and design school. So if you go to Stanford now, you see a collection. They have like the Cheryl Miller collections, which is studied by students of the school. So our motto is to live your life is your story, To live your life for others is your legacy. So leave a legacy. Another person on my list is Beatrix Ward. She was born in September 1900 and she died in September 1969. She's so iconic that a 5,000 USD scholarship program was created in her honor to help talented young female designers get started in the typography industry. Beatrix was a British typographer and a scholar known for influential writing on typography, including the essay The Crystal Goblet, which advocated for clarity and readability in design. She began researching typefaces and printing history as an assistant librarian for the American Type Founders Company, where she worked for a few years. Then when she also got married to a typographer, that's like a very cool shit. Then she moved to London. Quick personal life. So you know what really tripped me about this Beatrice story is that she's one of all those women that, you know, they disguise as a man to get into a male dominated industry, and this is how she did it. She did it with her writing. She had this article called The Garamond Types, that's the 16th and 17th century sources consider, but she did not write that article under her name. That's Beatrice Ward. She wrote it under a guy's name, under a man's name. That's Paul Bujon. So, and that article gained a lot of attention and all of that stuff. This article also ended a job at Monotype. Yes, Monotype, one of the largest front library in the world. And when Monotype got to know that, okay, this Paul Bujon, no be Paul Bujon, that this person is not actually who they say they are, that's their pen name, that she's actually a woman, a female, they did not revoke the offer. And this was something that was also uncommon back in their century there. So they gave her the job, and you know, that's how she started working with them, and she did lots of amazing work. And if you know Monotype, like they're the one that designed the popular Times New Romance, the font, Arial, Gil Anderson, and many more. So aside from working with Monotype, she also taught printing schools in England. She championed the cause for good printing and typography. She was able to change the narrative of typography. Some call her the first lady of typography, but I know that yes, she's actually not the first lady of typography, because if you go back in history, there are some women you will get in the like 14th century, 15th century, people that started out like as typographer. But in the 19th century, she was really, really in her prime. And that thing she did of writing article with another person's name, not another person's name, because she's actually conjured the name up, other Paul's name, was really, really daring. So kudos to Beatrice for that. The third person on my list is Gil Anderson. She's 62 years old. She's still alive, and I love her so much. So Gil is a collector. Her most prized possession is her Jackson 5 square book. This was like the beginning and genesis of exploring her creativity. So Gil is a New York-based designer. She's a writer. She's an educator. She's the chair of BFA Design and Advertising at the School of Visual Art in New York. She has served on advisory board for Adobe Partner by Design, the Society of Publication Designers, and also one iconic thing she did was she designed for the US Postal Service. She designed a postage stamp that is commemorating the 150th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. I don't know what's that, but that's a huge thing for them in the US. And that stamp sold over 50 million copies. It was also featured in like the evening news and all of that stuff. So that was like, she said, according to her, it was one of her high in her career. So for over 14 years, she worked with Rolling Stone as a designer, a deputy art director, and finally a senior art director. So let's dial it back, because Gil's story is related to the next person's story I'll be talking about, the next woman who will be like our fifth iconic woman. Our story is kind of related because the next person was a portfolio designer, and that person helped her get started in the industry. She has both co-authored and designed lots of books, but she has also written her own book that is titled Outside the Box, which is a study of hand-drawn logotypes, like packaging from around the world. As all the logos, the packaging she featured in that book are all hand-drawn. So she loves types a lot, and one video I'll recommend you checking out is The Joy of Typography. It is one of our lecture about 8 years ago. I'll link it in the description box. Last but not the least on my list is Pamela Sher. She's 75 years old. She's still alive. So according to Paula, she said design exists beyond screens. It has an impact in real life. And yes, Paula Sher was the one I was talking about that. I tied a story back to Gil Anderson. She was actually Gil's portfolio lecturer or teacher then, and she helped Gil get started in the industry. So you can see that this is like a women helping women here. So she's an American. Paula is an American graphic designer. She's a painter and educator in design. She also currently serving as the first female principal at Pentagram. Yes, Pentagram, one of the largest design studio in the world. As a child, she failed at everything except art, and she, went on to study art in school. She began her career as an art director in the 70s and in the 80s. And her approach to typography has become like highly influential. This just makes me like look back on these women. All of them have like an history with typography. Like their typography game is so on the lock. It's like on 100. I mean, it's making me like, rethink that typography is something I have to really like study, really think like how to make an artwork stand out without having. So what if I'm to design a flyer and the flyer does not have picture, does not have this? How will I be able to communicate the information with just her typography? And this is something they have been able to achieve. Like their works are so iconic, as you can see. So she designed the iconic art cover album like Boston, like the popular Boston, and this was like one of our, oh my god, Nepa, what happened? Can you imagine? Oh, okay, she designed like popular album like Boston. Like this was one of our like a very popular like, you will not talk about Paula's work without talking about this art cover, because this art cover was like a revolution. Like because after this art cover came Star Wars. Like before Star Wars, there was no art that was just like how she has made. And she thinks that this cover is half-baked, is cringy, she doesn't like it, but everybody loves it anyways. So in 1992, she became a design educator teaching at the School of Visual Arts in New York. She has received more than 300 awards from International Design Association and as well series of prizes. She's also really into typography. I think this is like the 100th time I've said it. She's into typography and environmental graphic design. Graphic identity for like Citibank, Tiffany and Co, the Public. These were monumental designs that became like case studies. It became like the standard for regeneration of American brands. Another thing she does is she paints. She's a painter. She paints maps. When she's not in the city working at Pentagram and doing all these great environmental graphics for clients all over the world, she's in her house in the countryside painting. So she found a way to like balance the two. Another cool fact about her is her husband is also a very well-known artist. Like he's also a creative, like he's also a painter. So while researching these women, I was like, these women are just like super iconic. Like they gave back to their society. They try to like lift other people up, to empower women. Like look at Cheryl, for example. Like she's still lending her voice to the Black community. She wants to see Black designers thriving in spaces where they should be. All of them have an history of like giving back to their society, like mentoring people, teaching people, taking up roles in faculties, in departments. Like it is so cool to see and inspiring. I hope that someday I'll be able to like get to that point, also impact knowledge to people. So while I'm still working on myself to, be iconic like this women, give back to my society, lecture people and do all that great stuff, you can watch this next video that talks about 10 YouTube channel for you to watch if you want to learn graphic design. That's like your starting point. So let's start from there. From there, we'll now go on to greater things that this woman have done. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.